What is up, everybody, and welcome to Grinderslive, the early edition. We're the early edition. We're kicking off the show. We are the NBA edition. We got a little four banger for you tonight. A little four banger in the NBA and this in the association. Is going to be a fun little slate if you're into that kind of stuff. It's Thursday. We're almost to the weekend, guys, and that means I'm joined today by Coach Will Priester, aka the Chief. The Chief is in the house. He's going to help us get through here. Chief, how's it going, man?
It's going fine, man. I was asking you before the show, how do you like this slate? Listen, I like every slate. I don't really get into a lot of the satellite slates like late night or the some of those, but I'm saying if it's a main slate, I'm typically going to be in on it. I definitely think we'll have some angles. The problem with this slate, Chop, is I feel like all the main players are questionable outside of maybe Steph Curry. So I don't know. And a couple guys in this Kings and Suns game, aren't questionable, but weird slate, man. We're just gonna have to do the best we can because all the games are spread out.
Yeah, this is going to be a handful right here. You gotta if you're going to play this slate, be prepared to stick around till that 9 o'clock hour tonight, to that late night hammer with Boston and LA, because there's a lot of decisions to be made right there with game time decisions. But we'll talk about that later on. And in fact, when we do break it down, since there's only 4 games, we'll probably talk about every game individually and tell you what we think about them. There's really no reason to break it up any other way than that. So before we do get started on anything, and we'll have SBK here in about 10 to 12 minutes. He's going to talk. So if you have any questions for him specifically about projections, minutes, if-thens, any of that stuff, fire them off in chat. I'll ask him. And before we get to any of that here, RG Premium is something I want to bring up right now. The RG Premium, you now have the option to select specific sports when you are getting your premium subscription. So you're not stuck with something that you don't like. You pay for what you want. You pay for what you like. And in fact, speaking of paying for it, there is a link for $10 off your first month that we're going to drop in chat. So you can combo up whatever you want. It's your own custom package. So get in on that. Lots of good sports going on right now. We're in the heart of a lot of stuff going on right now. Baseball, basketball, golf. If you're into UFC's got some really good UFC fights coming out. And then we got a great UFC package here. So all the good stuff. So get in on that and do yourself a favor, man. It really, really helps. I don't want to toot my own horn, but when they asked me on the survey yesterday, who's your favorite GPP pitcher? You know what the Chop Man said, right? Carlos Rodon, and he goes out and throws no, baby. Sometimes you get lucky. Sometimes you get a little lucky like that. Oh, yeah, and guys, also, I'd be remiss not to mention, since it's only 4 games and we're going to shoot through it all and have time, later on, after we talk about some basketball, I was lucky enough to get me a Cool Cats pack. I mean,
the chosen one.
I don't ever get these packs, man. Like, I missed out on even the free stuff that everybody was supposed to get. I even missed out on that stuff. But somehow today I got a Cool Cats pack. So after we get finished analyzing some NBA for you, we're going to open that up here on air and see if anything, and see if we can strike some gold here. So
Chop, you don't get the free packs?
I wish. I'm not a what do they call them? Influencer? I guess I'm not an influencer.
You're not an influencer.
Man, I'm mad. I get mad, man, when these guys are all up in there getting a pack every time, and I can't even get one. And so, like, it wasn't until like a week ago I finally got to experience opening a pack for the first time. So I don't ever get this stuff.
I only hit the pack sweepstakes, feels like once, maybe twice. I think it's once. Listen, man, our producer gets packs all the time. He's always getting packs. Every time, and he'll sneak it in too. Everybody will be like 141,000, 242,000, 8,500,000. And everybody just skips over it, right? He's always getting packs. I don't know if Devin's missed a pack yet. And if he didn't get a pack, well, never mind. I won't say. I don't want people to think you're scamming the system. But his wife is into it. I think she's always getting packs. Dan Bach is always getting packs.
Shaking my head.
But the rest of us peons, man, we don't get packs at all.
We got to scrap and claw for them. So, but we're gonna do that. We'll open it up for you later, guys. If you have any questions, Devin's gonna keep track of them. He's going to write them down, and he's going to fire them up later on, and we're going to answer every single one of them about this slate. So if you have any questions about NBA, fire them up, get them in, and we'll keep track of them. So while we wait on Keach, let's talk about this first game on the board here. Lots of injuries, and this is a game we gotta watch out for. Milwaukee and Atlanta is going to kick us off tonight. Let me pull up that game. We got some game time decisions here tonight. All right, Giannis, a game time decision again. Trae Young, another big baller, game time decision. DiVincenzo is a game time decision. Gallinari, GTD, game time decision. And this is in addition to all the guys who are already out. Atlanta's been without Collins and Reddish and Hunter and those guys for quite a while. So we know about that. And so, Chief, Milwaukee, Atlanta, some game time decisions. We can ask Keach about what ifs when that time comes. But as of right now, what are you expecting with these guys who got that questionable tag? What are you expecting? Are you expecting them to play or just kind of rest?
Well, let me give you guys some information. Chop, I've been talking about it, and you're probably going to hear these types of pieces of information influence my decisions slate to slate at this point. The Atlanta Hawks are sitting at 4th in the East right now. The Boston Celtics are sitting at 5th in the East. Both teams are on the slate tonight. Both are playing basketball. I don't think Atlanta wants to have to go to Boston to kick off their first playoff series they've had in, 4, 5, 6 years, whatever it is. My read on this is if any side of this game had to have players sit, I think it's Milwaukee versus Atlanta. If Trae Young can go, I think he's going to go tonight because it's getting real tight between 4 and 5. In fact, they're only a game behind. Boston is. Well, what does that mean? If Atlanta loses and Boston wins, now we're in a tiebreaker situation. So I think if Trae Young can go, if Gallinari can go, they're going to go tonight. If they sit tonight, I got to think there's a legitimate injury concern for them to not be in there. In terms of Milwaukee, there's a big gap between Milwaukee and Atlanta right now. So I'm not as concerned about Milwaukee in terms of, am I afraid who's going to play? I think they could rest Giannis and DiVincenzo. When I saw DiVincenzo pop up on the injury report, it almost felt like Holiday and Middleton could also pop up later on with some phantom injuries. And then they just roll out, their B team with, Connaughton, Portis, Thanasis, Nwora, Merrill. That could be the case. When I saw DiVincenzo, that was kind of my indicator. But in terms of the Hawks, I'm actually expecting at least Trae Young to play, even if Gallinari doesn't play. If they don't play tonight, they're for sure hurt. For sure.
Man, I want to believe in the playoff seeding meaning something because it has in years past. But, man, we're seeing a lot of stuff that I just never would have thought was going to happen. Brooklyn basically, I know they were competitive last night, but they basically gave a game away because they didn't want to play Durant. And I understand Harden, but they didn't want to play, the second guy there. They didn't want to play Durant. Well, I mean, you could have rested Durant like the game before that and had him well rested for the most important. Like you're tied with that team for the number 1 seed.
Yeah.
Maybe these teams just aren't really thinking about, maybe they're just not really worried about getting that home. Maybe the home court advantage doesn't even mean hardly anything with the lack of crowds these days. Who knows, man? But there's some funny business going on. Don't you agree? Like you could have rested Durant the game before and played him last night against Philly when it was really important when you're tied with them.
I see it, man. Maybe that was bad planning on the Nets' part. I'm with you 100%. I'm with you 100%. So I do think it maybe means a little bit more to a Hawks team.
Yeah.
That's a little bit younger versus a Boston team that's got a little bit more experience. And Atlanta will have fans. I can tell you that right now. Georgia's off the chain over there right now. People are getting vaccinated, so I think that's going to help some. But I think the Hawks want to win this game tonight. They know Boston's playing. They don't want to go to Boston, Chop. I don't think they want to go to Boston their first go around.
No, yeah, I get it. It probably means a lot, like you said, a lot more to some teams. So with that in mind, let's just try to break this thing down as best we can with all these. At least it's the first game on the board, and we're going to know what's up before. Well, we should know what's up before before it kicks off, even though we've been getting some crazy news even after, the game is supposed to be locked. But let's just say they take it easy with Giannis and he's out tonight. What do we do with Milwaukee?
I mean, if only Giannis is out, then I think that's going to open it up for all of these other main guys: Holiday, DiVincenzo, Middleton, Portis, perhaps even Brook Lopez at a cheaper price. He would probably be my odd man out. But that's kind of where I am now. Bobby Portis has seen a significant price increase across both sites. I still think the price is probably a little bit more fair on FanDuel, where he's $6K. On DK, Bobby Portis is up there. And so if you play him tonight, you're pretty much saying you're expecting him to get 40. That's kind of where I am, because if you look at his price band, he's 6,800. Like I don't want 35 points from Bobby Portis at 6,800. It's not terrible. He's going to hit his 5X or whatever, but if I'm playing him at that price, I'm looking for 40 plus. So I don't think he's playable on DK, even if Giannis is out, because that's really getting close when there's still a lot of mouths to feed on this team, even if it's just Giannis. Now, DiVincenzo's out and Giannis, and maybe we throw in somebody else, I'll probably get a little bit more interested. Fun fact, Budenholzer did used to coach the Hawks. Maybe we got a little coach narrative. I don't buy into the narrative as much as everybody, but maybe we got a little coach narrative and he wants to stick it to his old team. All in all, if it's just Giannis, I'm more interested in Middleton, DiVincenzo, probably more than even Holiday and Portis, and that's just purely a price play.
Yeah, I got a feeling, though, if Giannis sits, I think that'll only be the first domino on this team. If he sits, I think they'll be willing to sit somebody else, maybe a couple guys. And like you said, hey, man, maybe the whole thing, maybe all the dominoes tip over and we get like 4 or 5 guys out. And then all of a sudden it's a free-for-all, right?
Yeah. The good thing about this game, Chop, is unlike some of these other ones, this is the first game on the slate. We will have the news, I hope. I think we will, though. Milwaukee's been pretty good about getting it to us early. With this being the first game on the slate, I don't see any reason why we won't be able to make informed decisions about this game.
Yeah, we'll see how that plays out. On the Atlanta side, it's really tough to make some serious calls here at this time when we don't know if the best player on that team is going to be out tonight, Trae Young, everything. So it's tough, man. It's tough. But in fact, let's talk to SBK right now. He's here. He can give us a little bit more clarification on what he's feeling in this first game on the board. SBK, how are you doing today, my man?
Hanging in there. Got a nice little 4 games play here. I feel like I can breathe a little bit.
It's 4 games, but this might be the wildest 4-gamer that we see all year, because there's some serious game time decisions here. Can you enlighten us on it? Let's start off with this Milwaukee Atlanta game. Lots of game time decision, important guys on both sides. Let's start off with Milwaukee. They got Giannis questionable and DiVincenzo questionable. So every time Giannis has been out, it bumps up DiVincenzo. But now he might be out also. So who do we turn to if both of those guys are out?
So we do have a what if up for Giannis being out, not for both of those guys being out. And it's pretty kind of consistent with where things have been, just with Giannis out. There's really not going to be a huge winner as a result of DiVincenzo also missing. It's going to be, obviously Chris Middleton, Drew Holiday, Bobby Portis getting sizable bumps. Pat Connaughton would be a guy that I think would benefit more so from DiVincenzo also sitting, given that there'd be some more kind of minutes on the wing there for him. We'd probably see more Bryn Forbes, more Jeff Teague, more Thanasis, but none of those guys are, I think, viable from a DFS perspective. So I think Connaughton would probably be the guy that needs both to sit to really have viability. Maybe you could kind of put Brook Lopez in that same category as well. Maybe not really, though. But yeah, I think kind of Portis, Holiday, and Middleton they're going to be just fine, kind of, if it's just Giannis that's out. But obviously Connaughton would come on the radar if both players sit.
Yeah, something we got to keep our eyes on there. I want to go to the late game real quick and talk about the Lakers side because, I mean, there's all kinds of things going on here, but they've listed game time decisions now on Drummond, Gasol, Kuzma, and Morris. Feels like their whole front court or most of their valuable players in the front court. Do you have a read on what sounds like just coach talk or who actually might sit out this game?
No, I mean, I don't have any honest read on that situation in terms of who's going to sit or who's not. I think Markieff probably has the best chance to sit again. He also missed the last game, so I guess there's a chance. But I mean, I don't have any real read on which guys are going to sit, which aren't. We have two of the 4 games are starting at 10 o'clock Eastern time, so you do have some kind of pivoting options if you want to give yourself some time to see how that situation shakes out. And that probably is, I think, a pretty solid approach on this slate in particular. So yeah, I mean, because obviously if one or more of those guys sit, we have guys like THT would become far more appealing. A number of different options on the wing there, and the front court options that actually do play would become far more appealing. So yeah, no honest read on that situation right now, but I think giving yourself an angle to pivot as that news does come is going to be useful.
Fair enough. Chief, do you have anything?
Nah, man. I mean, this is I guess kind of a weird one because we've got this 7:30 game that's got a lot of the news, and we just don't have a good read on it yet. So I think I'm okay, man.
You're good. You're good. Let me see here. Yeah. You know what, SBK, we're not going to keep you too long. I know you got things to do, but I just want you to know the timer's at about 30 days now, 30 more days, and we won't be dealing with the NBA regular season. So the countdown is on, my friend.
Yeah, listen, I love the NBA as much as anybody. Like, there's going to be a big part of you that misses these games when they're gone, but this nightly kind of grind at this point in the season is so brutal with the playoffs so close. So yeah, we got about another month. We'll get there.
Yeah. All right, man. We appreciate you coming by today. We'll talk to you tomorrow, man.
See you, boys.
All right, later. And that was SBK with our projection team, breaking a few things down for us. There's just so many game time decisions. It's hard to figure out everything that's going on here. So there's no reason in beating the dead horse right there. Let's get back to Atlanta. So Bogdanovich, man, Bogdanovich been hot. If Trae Young is out, is he your lock and load tonight, Chief?
No, still not going to be a lock and load. I've got another guy that I think is the play on the slate in a totally different game. I think he is the lock and load on this slate. I don't think you want to make too many lineups without him tonight. I mean, he's going to be a big time play for us. I mean, big time.
You're going to tell us when we get to it, right?
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah, man. I'm seeing some stuff in chat. It says we want the NBA closer to lock, Andrew. Andrew, the NBA is definitely a sport that is best served as close to lock as you could get. But with all the sports, with the MLB running too, and the MLB being a little bit more popular right now, it's kind of where we're at, man. We're in this time slot, so we got to make best with it that we can. But there's always crunch time. There's always crunch time right before lock. You can get on that and ask questions too. So let's go on to another game now. That's about all we can talk about with all those game time decisions. We need to see if some news break before we really get into that one. Let's talk about Golden State, Cleveland. Not as much news here. In fact, we already got some of the news. Kelly Oubre has been ruled out, so we don't have to worry about that one. We got Colin Sexton is the big one in this game. He's the game time decision, and that would benefit a couple guys, namely Darius Garland. Let's talk about Golden State, and let's talk about Cleveland and what we're going to do with this game.
Yeah, man, Steph Curry lock button. Listen, when Kelly Oubre is out, man, Steph's numbers go through the roof. I mean, they're already his rates are already pretty high anyway. But I've kind of ran some numbers on it. Look at these recent performances. It's almost like an automatic 60. And I'm not saying that to be funny. Like, Steph's shooting out of his mind right now. I don't know if it's playoff push. I don't know if it's just he's got his lungs, got his legs under him. But clearly, Cleveland doesn't have anyone that's going to actually be able to stop him as long as the shots are falling. I think Steph Curry is the number one play on the slate. And ownership kind of agrees. I mean, I think he's at 28% on FanDuel projected. Let me see what that is on DK. I got to guess maybe on DK it's not quite. Well, it might be quite as high tonight with this slate. On DK a little bit lower at 21%, slightly. But I think Steph Curry is just your plug and play of the day. I wouldn't be building any lineups without Steph Curry tonight. I don't care if it's MME, Sync, SE, no entries. Just plug Steph Curry in your lineups.
Now, is that the guy you were referring to in last game? Is that the guy, the lock and load?
Yeah, man. Steph is your lock and load on this slate, period.
Yeah. Well, what about some of his teammates here? I mean, Oubre's out. That helps some guy. We've seen Draymond. Draymond put up a triple-double last game. He's got that really helps you on DraftKings.
And close to it the game before that.
What do you think about Draymond tonight against Cleveland?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to need him, especially if Kevin Love plays. We'll have a little finals revenge narrative, guys. Just so you know, I'm actually kidding about these narratives. I'm not a narrative player. I play just the way I want. But I do think Draymond's in consideration, especially 7,100 on FanDuel. I think that price is fantastic on DK. Guess what? Same exact price, 7,100. I think those are two guys. I don't think we have to worry about them too much. Now, I do hope that the game can stay somewhat competitive enough that they hit their numbers. I'm not as worried about Curry hitting his numbers, whether he plays 3 quarters or not. Draymond, I'm a little bit more concerned if the game gets out of hand in the third. But even when it got out of hand yesterday, and played 30 minutes, still put up 59 fantasy points. So if we can get them, playing 35-ish minutes, I definitely think these are two guys that are going to have good games. Kent Bazemore, priced up a little bit. I still think he's got, enough. He can kind of get you there. And then on DK, you got Kevon Looney at 3,500. I don't think it's exciting, but on a 4-game slate where, nothing's crazy exciting, he could be in play if you needed the value. But, Steph Curry, Draymond Green, I think that's definitely where you want to plant your flag. Those are two pillars I think you can build your lineups around.
So I know Colin Sexton's a game time decision, but otherwise Cleveland's actually one of the teams getting healthier now. They're getting guys back that have been out missing a while. So with this kind of a slate, are they just like an avoid for you? I mean, maybe if Sexton's out, you could plug in Garland, but if not, man, what do you do with Cleveland? Just kind of fade them all?
Yeah, that's kind of my read, especially if Sexton plays. Like, if he plays, they're all kind of, in my opinion, just off limits. Like, Allen's playing, Love's playing, Okoro, Sexton, Garland, Nance, Wade, Hartenstein, Prince. They're just it's too many bodies, and I think they're going to eat into each other. I did think that there would be a possibility that like a Kevin Love would possibly sit on a back-to-back because of the situation. But hey, maybe he wants to play. We haven't heard anything. So my read right now is just to avoid Cleveland. I don't see the need to have a run back and plug in Steph and Draymond.
All right, let's go to now we got 2 late night hammers, two games that kick off at 9:00 Central Time. So Sacramento and Phoenix is the one I want to touch on now. It's got less injuries, less game time decisions, so we can shoot through that one real quick. We do have Rashawn Holmes and Marvin Bagley out for Sacramento, so that's going to benefit somebody out there. I can guarantee you somebody's going to step up and be better because of that. So let's start off on that Sacramento side. Those 2 big guys are down. I heard a lot of rumblings of Harrison Barnes, but let me pull up his game log. I don't think he was particularly he was kind of a disappointment that last game with those 2 guys out. So are you going back to him, or how do you feel about that Sacramento side?
I think this game is in play. Like, on a normal slate, you may be thinking, oh, well, the Suns are going to kind of run them out of the gym. And that's definitely a possibility. But, I mean, if you had to get involved in absolutely only one game, this is the one, right? So I think we need to be in on De'Aaron Fox, in on Maurice Harkless. I don't like Harkless particularly, but I'm saying if we're getting in terms of the game flow, Harrison Barnes, we're going to be in on him, which he's got very high ownership projections on FanDuel at 5,800, and that's just because, power forward is a little weak today. So I will tell you this. I like Harrison Barnes, don't love him. In tournaments, I'm going to fade Harrison Barnes at 50%. I'm not playing a lick of a $5,800 Harrison Barnes on FanDuel against the Suns. I think I'm just going to play Draymond and Tatum and call it a day. I think that's my thought process. But Fox, they're all in play. Don't mind Halliburton if he's going to come off the bench at 5,400. And then, do we play Whiteside at 5K? I mean, if he gets 23 minutes, he's probably in play because he's another pretty high fantasy point per minute producer. But that's just kind of where I am. I think if you're playing this game, you're kind of stacking it. I don't think this is one where we're taking a piece here, a piece there. I think we want to put this one together in case it shoots out.
All right. Well, on that other side there, you got Phoenix at home, a 12-point favorite against Sacramento. This is a really good team here, man. And there's a possibility this thing could get out of hand. Who knows? Like, let's say you're not building a tournament team. Let's say you're playing cash. Is Phoenix a place you would look, or would you just assume go elsewhere?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, this is the game. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to fit in Chris Paul because I'm going all in on Curry, right? That's just my take. But I think we need to be considering even the minor pieces in this game, like Cam Johnson, like Cameron Payne, because these are the guys you may need on this slate tonight. Dario Saric isn't getting as many minutes, but I've seen him put up 30 and 17 minutes. Not saying it's going to be today, but I think if you're multi-entering, you take shots on Cameron Payne, Cam Johnson, Dario Saric. Cam Johnson, I think, is borderline. You can play him if you're like in single entry. And I say that because his minutes have kind of been trending up, and this should be a pretty up-tempo game. Main pieces here for me, I would honestly start with Mikal Bridges and work backwards. Because of his price, I think this works out good for him in a high-tempo spot. Bridges, Booker, Paul would kind of be my read. And then, the fringe pieces, Cam Johnson, Cameron Payne, Dario Saric, in that particular order for the really cheap guys.
Yeah. All right. That's good stuff. Did I tell you, were you the one I told about my Chris Paul? I found my Chris Paul. I found me a good Chris Paul rookie. Whoo, buddy. Pop 1, baby. PSA 10 Pop 1. Chris Paul.
No, you didn't tell me about that.
I didn't tell you about that one.
No.
I found a Chris Paul rookie 2005 X Fractor PSA 10. It has a Pop 1. Oh, baby. You talk about an investment. That's just an investment, right? Because this guy's a first ballot Hall of Fame.
Well,
I felt so good when I got that one in the mail, man. Oh,
that's incredible. Because, I mean, even if at this point he's missing one thing, and that's a championship. Like that's the only thing he's missing from his resume. And honestly, I would rather him, hear me out, I would rather him get it with Phoenix than team up with the Lakers or the Clippers or something like that. I'm not saying he's going to.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm saying if he pulls it off with a team like Phoenix, legacy cemented. Like, what are we going to say? I mean, it's just that's the icing on the cake, man.
I mean, they can say a lot about Chris Paul over the years, but this cat, he really is a winner, man. He's gone to that team and he's made them a legitimate candidate this year, and that's a young team right there that he's solidified. So, yeah, it's a beautiful card. But let's move on to this last game real quick. Then we'll get into a little pack break, and then we'll get some questions for you. This game's this is not. We're just kind of going to gloss over this because there's so many things to wonder about here with Schroeder, Robert. Time Lord's questionable here. Drummond, Kuzma.
That's a big one.
Yeah, that's huge, man. So with all those game time decisions, I don't know who's going to sit. I don't know who's going to be in. I can see what our projections are saying now, but it's really up to the coaches at this point. Give me a quick takeover on this game and let me know what you're thinking.
I don't typically play Boston when they're at full strength, but it's a 4-game slate, and so I got to pick my poison here. I do think Tatum is probably the best power forward raw points play. I do think Draymond's in a close second given the situation with the lack of big men because Pascal and Wiseman are out. So I do think Draymond's a close second. But I do think Tatum is your de facto, high floor, high ceiling play at power forward. And I don't really want to play him, but I think it's necessary on this slate. If Robert Williams is out, Tristan Thompson is probably going to get real close to being a lock button because, I mean, he's the only real center they have outside of, playing some Luke Cornett or Taco Fall or something like that. The other thing that I will mention, and I don't like this guy, but if Robert Williams does sit, and I don't think I'm wrong about this. I think we'll see Semi Ojeleye maybe pick up a few extra minutes. I don't want to play him, but on a slate like this, Semi Ojeleye gets you 20 to 25. At the end of the night, you might be looking at something interesting. So just wanted to kind of plug those guys. Kemba at 68 isn't bad. Marcus Smart at 7K on FanDuel. I can't do it, Chop. Not against the Lakers. I just can't. Jaylen Brown at 8,100. I'm not doing it. This is FanDuel pricing. But Tatum, if Williams is in at 58 on FanDuel, I think I'm in. I think I'm in on Kemba as well at 68. But if he sits Tristan Thompson at 42, it's going to be fantastic. Did want to flip over to the DraftKings pricing as well, because the pricing is pretty similar outside of Marcus Smart being 6,100. And at 6,100 on DK, I'm a lot more interested.
Yeah, and for that Lakers side, it's just, if a couple of those guys are missing, if Schroeder's missing, Talon Horton Tucker, fire him up. If that front court is missing a couple guys, Montrezl Harrell, fire him up. You just got to kick back and see and wait on those. So we'll see how that plays out later on. But too many injuries there to really focus too much on it. Chief, let's get in there. Let's open up Cool Cats pack. You want to do that, man?
Let's get this pack.
Devin, go ahead and pop in here, Devin. I know you're getting some questions ready. Guys, if you do have questions, fire them off, because we're going to go over them here in just a minute. Devin's going to guide us through all the questions. I want to bring Devin in and let him give me the okay to tell me when.
Looking good.
Down and let me know.
Yep.
All right, we're looking good. I can pop it open here. You know what? I don't even do this enough. I don't even know how to do this. I've done this so few times. Let me see.
Hey, man, just click that blue open your pack button.
It's pretty easy.
All right, let's see how it is. Let's see.
Give me 1 minute. That's what
I'm getting some music in my ears.
I'm sure it's loud. Yeah.
Chop.
Five
Chop.
packs.
I feel like you're about to have a fire pack, Chop. You haven't got one in a while. Let's wish our man Chop some good luck. Chop might get a serial number 1 in this pack. Serial number 1 for you, Chop.
He's in the club right now with the music in his ear. I'm sure.
This is crazy, man.
Club Top Shot. Oh,
we got a little Drew Holiday for you, Chief.
And that's your Cool Cats moment too. That's your Cool Cats moment. Little Drew Holiday.
8,900 serial number, not bad.
Cool Cats is they're bumping some music in my head. I can't even hear you guys. I really do feel like I'm in the club and I'm trying to talk to you guys from across the room.
At the top left,
let's go to the number 2 here.
Hey, head chopper, hit that speaker in the top left.
Common 2,900. Oh, Zion.
At least that's a good one, Chop. Zion's got some liquidity.
Damn, I didn't play that. I was trying to find the mute button on here.
You got that speaker in the top left.
There, bang. Whew,
Welcome back.
Man. All right, Zion Williams. That's a pretty good one. Let me get my volume back up here. All right, let's go with the number 3 here. So I probably made my money back already.
Oh, yeah.
Ben Simmons. I like Ben Simmons. He's all right.
Ben with a hesitation.
Oh, he made a shot.
Euro hook shot.
I like that.
Ben with the hezzy Euro in and out crossover, Euro hook shot. Ben Simmons, ladies and gentlemen.
Not bad. All right, let's see here. Where we at?
2 left.
Number 4 now.
Let's get you a serial number 1.
3-pointer. Joey. Oh, Jingles.
Jingling Joe.
I have that moment.
He is what he.
Hey, he faked this. Oh, hold on. Chop, did you see that? Secretly, the guy fell down off the screen.
Yeah, he busted some ankles. All right, I like that.
Jingles busted some ankles.
Jingles busted some ankles. All right, that's good stuff, Jingles. I appreciate it. All right, let's go with the last one here. Let's see what we got here. Common. It's not Derrick Rose. All right, I'm cool with it.
That's a little vintage Derrick Rose. Little vintage up and under.
Is that look at that serial. Is that the serial number 222? That's a good serial number.
Ooh, that is good.
Oh, yeah, Chop, that's a good one.
That's nice. It's, people like those numbers like that.
Sub 1K.
Yeah, little 222 action.
Sub 1K.
And Chop, I wish they would have scored 122. Because then you could have had some little serial matching the score action.
There you go.
You know what I mean? But they scored 121.
All right, guys, we appreciate you watching that, man. I'm a pack newbie. I don't get to do that very often, but that was fun. Actually, that Zion's probably the best one I've ever opened in a pack for sure.
You'll have to check when the marketplace opens again.
Yeah, we'll have to see what that looks like.
Chop, I'll buy that Drew Holiday from you for $10.
I might do that. I might do
Slipping
that.
behind
We'll
that.
have to-
I'm just,
I don't even know how
Nah.
much it goes for.
I'm just messing with you, man. That's because
Think it's
that
worth more than that?
that one is part of the challenge, so I'm sure they're going to price it up.
Oh, challenge. Oh man, don't talk to me about challenges, man.
No,
Trying
but
to pull a
listen, you
fast
might.
one on him.
I burned some money in some challenges, brother.
Well, hear me out though, Chop. If you don't want this Russell Westbrook challenge, right? Then
Okay.
what you can do is just price that Drew at an
Yeah.
appropriate price when the marketplace opens up. Just kind of see where it is. People will buy it because they want to get in on the challenge. So
Yeah.
the time to sell that Drew Holiday is definitely right now, because after the challenge is over, it might be worth $10.
There we go. We'll see how that plays out. All right. We got Devin here. He's going to fire off. So we got about 12 minutes or so. What do we got? About 12
Yeah,
minutes?
about
All right.
12.
Let's see what we can do with some questions. Let's see if we can get enough questions in here to kill all that
Questions
time.
today might be squeezing blood out of a turnip, Chop.
I love it. Let's see. We'll get Christopher wants to know, do you think Trey plays tonight? I think we touched on that one pretty well.
Yeah, if I had to guess, he does play because of the situation.
Yeah.
Boston nipping at the heels. They still have home court advantage currently. They need to win as much as they can.
Andrew wants to know, do you guys have any winning bets for tonight?
Oh, man.
Got to imagine we can squeeze a couple of bets out of this.
Oh, yeah, Andrew. Yes, sir. Let's talk about it. Chop, you got something right away?
I don't. First off, last night 0 for 3. So that was not my night last night. I was 0 for 3. But tonight, I think my best strategy on betting is I'm just not like a really good bettor with just looking at games and trying to predict if the spread is correct or not. The best success I've ever had betting is trying to find a little information before the bookies get it. So
Yeah.
with that being said, maybe I take a shot on a Boston and hope LA just sits all those guys or something like. So I think I'll probably lean towards Boston right now and hope that if they sit Schroeder and maybe one of the other guys, they're gonna have a hard time scoring in this game. So something like that would be my guess.
Well, here's what I'm going to take. And I'll tell you this right now, Chop. So I've been watching the line on this Bucks-Hawks game. Opened at Bucks -6
Uh-oh.
down to Bucks -4.5. That tells me Giannis is probably going to sit. Trey is probably going to play. That's what I have. I would take the Hawks plus 4.5 here right now. I think the Hawks pull off the win if Giannis sits for sure. Hawks plus 4.5 currently.
You've already said it. You've already mentioned it. If Giannis sits and DiVincenzo sits, there's a chance they pull the rug out from everybody and sit Drew Holiday and or Middleton also. They've been known to do that. So, yeah. Taking a shot on something like that for a little value, I don't mind that at all.
Kind of rolling the dice on the injury news, seeing if it can fall your way. Morningwood wants to know, DK tournament, what's your favorite value play?
I think it's one of these cheap guys like Whiteside at 3,400. Like that's getting real close, right? Cam Johnson at 3,400, I think is close as well. But I think we'll wait and see what happens with the news. But currently, I do think it's probably Whiteside. If Whiteside gets 22 minutes again, I think he's for sure like the value play on the slate.
It's good. Good you mentioned that one. Our next question comes from Christopher. Wants to know: would you start Capella or Whiteside? Talking about the value that Hassan offers
on FanDuel or DK.
There wasn't a site mentioned. We'll call FanDuel. Yeah.
I still think you stick with Capella here. Capella's got 60-point upside. Whiteside, I do think his upside is capped. I know he put up 40 last night. I wouldn't be looking for 40. I'd probably be looking for 25 or so. And at 25, that's going to work on DK, not going to work on FanDuel. Even on DK, I would still roll with Capella at 8,900. We know John Collins is out, and Capella's been a beast.
I would jump in and say I think Capella's easily the safer play. We know that, but Hassan, maybe that wasn't a fluke last game. Maybe having those guys out for Sacramento is going to really help him long term here. Maybe it is. So I think he's definitely the more friendlier GPP play. But if you got a significant amount of money in one lineup, I'd rather have Capella in there.
All right, keep dropping those questions. We'll get to them in chat, and don't forget to hit the like button if we get to your question. Curiosity Seeker, going for the 4-game slate, digging for the bottom of the barrel here. Are we considering Solomon Hill today?
If for me, if Gallinari is out, Solomon Hill's in play. But Gallinari's got to be out.
And that's for one of the first games, right? So hopefully we'll
That's
get
the
some.
7:30 game. Yeah, we'll know real quick.
All right, next question comes from Big Hurt asking two favorite questions. FanDuel tournament, best strategy for large field and best game stack.
I'll go with the strategy. My strategy tonight would be to take some chances on the injuries, for those late games. I really think that you're not going to get the news at 6:30 when the things tip off. I don't think so. I'm going to take some chances on the Lakers sitting a bunch of guys, and I'll have plenty of spots open for my team in case I need to make sure I have room for Talon Horton-Tucker, Montrezl Harrell, or any other upside players. Or on the Boston side, if Time Lord sits, I want to make sure I have room on my roster for all the guys I can put in their place. So probably go very, very light on these first couple games and really reserve some spots for those late games.
And Will, if you could touch on the game stack question, and at the same time, if you want to touch on general strategy you employ on these smaller slates and with regard to game stacks.
Okay, I'll go game stack is for sure Phoenix, Sacramento, even with the blowout risk. Like if I had to stack one game, that's the game. And then in terms of strategy for me on small slates, I've said this 1,000 times. Devin, I know you've heard me say it. I just fade what I think is bad chalk. There's always one player on this slate that gets this really, elevated ownership, and they shouldn't have it because of how the slate is broken down. For me, and this is a guy that I don't think is bad chalk, but I think he's too high owned to even try to play him any. For me, that guy is Harrison Barnes tonight. So I'm taking the full fade on Barnes in hopes that instead of him putting up 40, he puts up like 25, and I think I'm in the money at that point.
All right, next one comes from Christopher. Don't forget to hit that like button. On DK, do you like Curry, Paul, Kemba in the same lineup with Tatum and Whiteside?
Curry, Paul, and Kemba.
Yep.
With Tatum. Well, that's a lot of salary, but yeah, I don't see why. It's 4 games, man. On a 4-gamer, you can do whatever you want. Like you can do a lot of different
whatever
things.
you like.
Yeah, you can do a lot of different things, and nobody would even bat an eye that that's bad strategy. It's 4 games.
Yeah.
So yeah, that sounds good, man.
All right, keep dropping those questions. Got about 5 minutes left. Moving on to Dion wants to know DK tournaments. Is Cameron Payne in play? Chief, I think you mentioned he was in play for you.
Yeah, for a value play, I think he's in play. And then let me hit up Andrew here because Andrew thinks I'm hating on Harrison Barnes. Andrew, this is tournament strategy, buddy. I'm not hating on him, but when you got a guy that's going to be 50% that could easily that also has bust potential. Yeah, he's playing a lot of minutes, but I'm saying he's one of the highest owned players on the slate. He doesn't have nearly as much upside as some of these other guys on a regular basis. I'm saying I'm taking the fade. I'm not telling you to do what I'm doing. I'm just giving you my personal strategy. So, like I said, you're more than welcome to play him. But in terms of the ownership tonight, him at 50%, I'm fading for sure.
Always got to play your own plays. Nobody else is using your money.
There you go.
Smart guy wants to know. Oh, actually, here we go. Oh, we had the campaign already. Smart guy wants to know Wiggins or Draymond. No site specified.
Draymond for me.
All right. Oh, wants to know, is Juan Toscano a sneaky play tonight?
What do you think, Chief? I would say no, because I think you're depending on unless we get some injury news that I'm not aware of, I think you're depending on a big blowout or something. So not for me, but maybe Chief thinks different.
I think he's in play. He's one of those guys. So for instance, like on this slate, those are the types of plays you need to win, right? At the end of the night on the $4 in FanDuel, there's going to be one wacky player that's going to be in the lineup, and you're going to be like, that's so dumb. Like, why is Juan Toscano Anderson scoring 30 tonight, right? That's how you win on a 4-game slate. So, and it happens every time. How many times have we seen a 3-game slate, a million, like the first slate of the year, right? 2 or 3 games. And we're like, oh, we're going to split this thing 100 ways. And then it's only split 2 or 3 ways. Well, it's because they played Juan Toscano Anderson and nobody else decided to do it. I think he's in play in MMEs, not if you got serious money, though, as Chop would say.
All right. Hammer asking, what about Looney Tune tonight?
Whew.
I think that might be the first time I've heard is Kavan Looney. That might be the first time I've heard that
Looney
nickname.
Tune. I like that name, but I mean, he's there's no upside there, but there seems to be now a pretty decent floor. So if you're into the floor and if the rest of your roster feels great, that's fine. But I don't think there's any upside there. And this, who knows? He might pull a Gallinari on me and go for 55 tonight and prove
Hey,
me
don't
wrong.
do that, Chop. Don't, please. I can't take a Kevon Looney 55. Now, I don't mind somebody that can stroke it a little bit, but if Kevon Looney puts up 55, you're gonna see that slamming the computer GIF all over my Twitter tonight. Just forget it. And that's an early game too. But I will say this: if he gets 25 tonight, you could probably take down a GPP with him getting 25 in that 3K range for sure.
I'll tell you this much. I am all right with anybody crushing if it means we get Chopped to drop that Italian impression again on us.
Brutal.
Christopher wants to know, Jaylen Brown has been hit or miss the last few games. Do you fade him or play him? Thanks for all the advice. Thanks for tuning in, Christopher.
I mean, 4 game or so, he's definitely on the radar as far as FanDuel. Like he's limited to small forward, which means there's just not a lot of options anyway. And he's, if Giannis sits, maybe Middleton's the top option, but he's one of the top 2 or 3 at the position anyway. So yeah, he's firmly in play. Just doesn't feel great, especially if the Lakers start sitting guys and we get a blowout potential. But maybe Chief likes him a little bit more.
I don't like Jaylen Brown at all when he's over 8K. I mean, look, man, I got principles I live by. And guess what? I probably 80% of the time it's not going to burn me. I don't play Jaylen Brown over 8K ever. Unless the caveat is everybody's got to be out.
But are you changing your rules? Are you changing your rules a little bit on only a 4-game slate?
Not on Jaylen Brown. I'm
okay.
Not. At 8K, with everybody playing, what does he put up? 35, 38? I can survive a 38 at 8K tonight.
Don't say that, Chief. He's going to drop a 60 bomb tonight.
Guess what? He drops a 60 bomb. You know what I'll do? I'll just say, hey, man, good game, and I'll fire up tomorrow's slate.
At least he won't do it till late, so you get sweated out earlier, right?
It'd be like Hammer here in chat. Drop the I will eat my laptop if Kavan puts up 55.
Yeah, man, saute that thing. Put your little Zatarans in there. Or if you're from South Carolina like me, a little Old Bay seasoning for your seafood. How many of you guys know about Old Bay?
Old Bay, some Tony Shashers.
Oh, come on, Tony Chachere's. There we go.
Tony Chachere's. Oh, I like that stuff.
Now we're on a good part of the show. We're talking food.
Oh man, it's just gonna make me hungry. But that's about all the time we got. So, Chop, you want to bring us home, and we'll be back here for baseball.
I appreciate all those questions, guys. We appreciate that. We appreciate Devin jumping in and asking them and killing that time for you and getting all those questions out the way. So, as always, guys, good luck in those GPPs. The NBA show is early, but we got a crunch time later. Get in there and ask your questions in crunch time when we get a little bit more information, and that'll help you out a little bit more. So, good luck, guys, tonight. Good luck tomorrow. The weekend is upon us almost for big Will the Thrill, Chief, Will Priester. I'm Head Chopper. We'll see y'all later, but for now, we're out of here.
I mean, a lot of yesterday's slate was primarily like the Braves, and then just everyone was kind of equal, right? Because we can even see here with the ownership on DraftKings. Now I'm talking about FanDuel. FanDuel, the Braves pricing is they need to bump some of these guys up. But even on DraftKings, you got Freeman and Acuna and Ozuna. I mean, look at this ownership, like right here, Darno 21%. So the Braves were chalk, okay. And really, they didn't get there, right? Other than Acuna, like who did anything? Really nothing, right? I had a bunch of the Rays. And of course, Lowe got there. I mean, the stack didn't get there. I guess the Dodgers a little, but they were a little expensive. So most people played 2 of these pitchers on DraftKings: Morton, May, and McCullers. On FanDuel, it was about the same. McCullers was like 20% owned. Morton was around 20% owned. May was 20%. It was kind of because you could fit anyone you want on FanDuel. I mean, the pricing was soft. I'm surprised Wheeler was that owned on DraftKings, but I mean, like, no pitchers really, other than Rodon, no pitchers really put up anything to write home about. Right? We take a look here. Arahara, no one played him. Of course, I'm playing stacks against him. Right? Plesac -14, McCullers -3. Morton got enough strikeouts to get there, to get 15, but that could have been nasty. Right, Oh yeah, Peterson did well. Right, Peterson. That would be if you had Rodon Peterson lineup. Yeah, you outscored you outscored everyone at pitcher by like 3 times. But I mean, what, 18% owned here, 3% owned there. Not many lineups like that. We even take a look at some of these sharp players. I pulled up 150 maxers. Yeah, some Peterson. Right, Rodon. Some. I mean, nothing outrageous. I mean, most of the chalk, right? Some Plesac, but really on par. I mean, if anything, McCullers was under-owned at 32%. I expected McCullers to be like 45% owned on DraftKings. I expected to be 40% owned on FanDuel. He was 20% owned on FanDuel. Doesn't matter, right? Those lineups are dead. I have lineups that look all good, that they're like 40 points below first place, and it has McCullers 2 in there. It's like, okay, that can't win. But really, like the chalk failed yesterday. Detroit beat up McCullers. The White Sox beat up Plesac. You mix those 2 together, you were fine. But I mean, you could have gotten there a multitude of ways. You pretty much needed Acuna. So like a 4-3-1, or not even a 4-3. Did any 4-man stacks really get there? The Tigers, maybe not even. Yeah, Chisholm, but not really anyone else. I mean, Aguilar got 14. McCann for the Mets. Dahl, Castro, you had Yerman, I guess the White Sox. Madrigal 13, Robert 12. Lurie Garcia 13. I mean, I guess you could have.
What is going on, Rotogrinders? Dean here at Dean 7004 around the DFS circles. If you want to get all technical on me, it's actually It's 5:27 on the East Coast. 5:27 on the East Coast. It's 2:27 on the West Coast. 4:27 Tennessee time. So of course, that means it's time for the flagship show here at Rotogrinders. It is called Grinderslive. We're not messing around today. 3-man booth, an absolutely gross slate. Here to put lipstick on the pig of a slate that we have to deal with tonight is a two-time millionaire winner. You know him from such things as the $1 Million Musings. It's one Dave Potts. Jeez, is good. Dave, it's our first show this year. Welcome.
Happy baseball season. Dean and Grant, haven't seen either of you yet this year. This is fantastic. And yeah, we need something to do to make this slate a little more interesting. So we'll work on that, but glad to be here.
We're open to suggestions. What's up, chat? Feel free to like and subscribe, turn on notifications. You guys will be participating in the show in the back end. Devin, our fabulous multitasking producer, is going to be compiling those questions, regarding tonight's slate. If you want to ask Cheese about his favorite ice creams, if we have time, I suppose. It's going to be a tough. Hey, and we came out early tonight too. Why not? Sure. Let's really dig into tonight's slate. And again, we're all sort of dealing with the same thing. I actually have some good general questions for you, Dave. And if that's the people have as well, general questions as far as DFS. If you're new to DFS, feel free to fire those off. Tournament questions, FanDuel, DK, that helps as well too. Talk about stacks, all the good stuff. Also with us, and I'm equally as excited as I expressed pre-game, pre-show, Grant Neiford. What's up, Grant?
Not much. I like this slate.
You would like this slate.
Why do you like this slate?
Why do you like it?
Merrill Kelly.
You don't like Merrill Kelly? You can't. That's not an answer, though. That is a person partaking on the slate, but that doesn't mean you're. That's not persuasive. That's why you like it.
Do we like anyone on this slate?
I mean, there's Dodgers.
I mean, yes, we like Juan Soto because of Merrill Kelly, I guess, if that's what you're going for.
I mean, that you can like Soto, but no, are you going to really like anyone else in the Washington lineup?
Yes.
Yeah.
I might be wrong here. But
well, I mean, Grant, I guess, are you actually playing Merrill Kelly this evening?
I'm starting to talk myself into it. I was waiting for Cheese to talk me out of it.
Well, I feel like you're doing the Homer Simpson, like the GIF with the bushes. You're not really going to roster him. You're backtracking here.
Why not?
Imagine so. Well, Cheese, why shouldn't we play Merrill Kelly tonight? That's what we'll start.
It's fairly simple that this is since there are no good pitchers, one school of thought might be, well, then I'll just go cheap. But I would say the only goal is not to get the -12. And he is one of the only guys who can get the -12 realistically. So I just want to avoid the -12. I'm fine with overpaying for a 15.
I mean, my main thing is on that 5-game slate, Scooball is going to be 28%. Manea is going to be 27%. Rich Hill and Urias and Corbin are all going to be around 50. Like, no one's going to play Merrill Kelly. And realistically, outside of the lefties in the lineup, like, who's really going to do that much damage against him for the righties? I mean, it's not a great lineup. He has shown decent stuff last year. Like, he's not terrible versus lefties, and he's not terrible versus righties. He has a decent changeup. He's going to pitch to contact with his cutter going up against lefties. And if Soto, Bell, and Schwarber don't hit it out of the ballpark, he can probably breeze through things because, like, it's not great weather out there. It's 56 degrees. I mean, at the beginning of the day, I was on Scooball, I was on Mejia, and I was going to fade Urias and Hill because I thought they're going to be low owned. But it looks like the only guys that are going to be low owned are Roark and Eunice, who are terrible, Lyles, who's terrible, and then Kelly, who's actually shown some decent stuff over the last year. He's just had a rough outing this year going up against Colorado in Colorado and a tough matchup versus the Padres. He went to 94 pitches in both those outings. Like, he's going to go far enough into the game, and he can easily land on the right side of variance.
Why does everybody call him a Eunice? It's not Eunice. It's Eunice. Once you said Eunice, I stopped listening to everything else.
I think it's because the Jakob throws me off.
Jakob Eunice throws you off. I follow.
So, Dave, tonight's slate, right? The tricky thing is, like, two of the best pitchers pitching tonight are also the two that are least likely to throw the most amount of pitches. If that sentence makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't even say that so much as it's just that they're not great pitchers. Like, these aren't guys who should be like 10K and popular. So to me, it's not whether they're kind of good or not. I'm not even that worried about the pitch count. I mean, Urias threw 95 last time. Hill will get his 85 to 90. It's more that it's kind of similar to what we saw yesterday, and it's even a worse group where one of these good pitchers might have a Plesac and one of them might throw a completely random no-hitter. But none of them should really be 10K and 40% owned. Like, they're not that good. But again, I'm just going back to, I don't think you win or lose with pitcher. Like, I don't care at all what a pitcher's ownership is on this slate. I don't think no one's getting 40 points. No one's probably getting 30 on anywhere. Like,
did you see the Rockies lineup that came out?
Spoiler alert, it's bad.
I did. Yes. I mean,
I just saw that now. That I might change
6
my
innings with 3 strikeouts is still not that exciting to me. I mean, Urias is the safest of these and the most expensive, and Hill is the second safest and most expensive. And I think if they just kind of are subpar, just take it. And I mean, you can't necessarily jam them both in your lineups, but it's not like if you play Junis or Rourke or Kelly or Lyles, you're not getting 30 points. Like, you're hoping to get the same amount as Hill or Urias or Corbin gets, and whoop-de-doo, like, the salary's not special to me. So I'm just I don't care at all about the ownership on this slate personally.
It's still early enough in the season where we're getting like most of the ones pitched together and most of the twos now and most of the threes. I like when we shuffle it up and get a kind of a mixed bag, and we're not there just yet. As far as the Rockies lineup against lefty Urias, there is no Trevor Story. So you take Story out of that lineup, it looks horrible. And there's no Blackman either. So it's Hampton, Tapia, McMahon, CJ Crone, Fuentes, Diaz, Daza, and Machete, Alan Trejo. So, man. The whole thing is Roberts, right? And like, Dave, you're not that concerned about it because he's the best pitcher, probably no matter what. Maybe even he throws 85 pitches. And, you know, I felt okay about May yesterday. I didn't feel amazing about him, but it's kind of similar in that I thought he was fine. He's not going to ruin me. But the same deal, popped up yesterday where he got into trouble in one spot. And if you're watching the game, it was like the 5th inning. He was at 70 pitches or so, a driller through the hole, a bunt single, maybe a walk or something like that. They gave him the hook in the 5th inning at 70 pitches. And Urias is another guy of history of arm problems. They're thinking about the World Series. They don't care about the game 10 or 15 against the Rockies. So they're not going to push them too hard. They have a great bullpen. But like 5 to 6 innings and 5 to 6 Ks against this terrible Colorado, that's good enough anyways. And the other question is, if you are going to fade them, well, who are you going to play? Because there's nobody else that looks good. If you say I'm going to fade this guy, you also have to say who you're going to fade him for. And then we'll name those guys soon. It's not great.
Yeah. Like, sometimes we get the slate where you have, Scherzer, DeGrom, and Cole, and 2 of them are 50% owned and 1 is 10% owned. Well, yeah, of course, play the ownership, take that. But if everyone scores between 8 and 18 DraftKings points, I don't care at all who I have. I just don't want the -12.
Speaking of, pitch counts, Dave, Rich Hill, what is it, Dick Mountain? Well, what is it, 37, 38, 39? How old is Rich Hill these days?
Oh, he's over 40.
Is he? He's a man?
He's 41 or 42, yeah.
So he's the combination of being 40-ish, his history of arm problems, Tampa also thinking long-term, just their general organizational mentality as far as starting pitchers. But again, Dave, he's facing Texas. He didn't walk anybody. Like, his walks are down, and that's kind of like, he has those laboring innings sometimes. So go ahead.
To me, the big question here is, which is the worst lineup, Texas or Colorado?
Oof.
And for strikeouts, I think it's still Texas. You'd still rather be facing Texas. Maybe overall, who knows? They're both bad. Colorado doesn't have their Joey Gallo in, but I think I'd still rather be facing Texas.
Do you double down, double barrel? And I know it's weird to say double barrel because these aren't usually I use that term at least for like elite studs. We've done that. At least I've done that when the cap was looser. The cap is tightening a little bit on DK. It's a little bit harder, a little bit more strained. And also these guys like Rich Hill on a slate 2 days ago, we laughed. We didn't acknowledge his existence of these 9K. We're paying 10K for the actual real studs, but every slate is different. Dave, do we think, is that a potential path as far as, double down, lock in Hill, lock in Urias, or at least on a specific lineup? Can you make that work with enough bats where you can justify that?
There's not very many lineups that are respectable with that, which is exactly why I think Corbin will probably end up being the highest owned pitcher. The difference between a 9K Rich Hill and going down to 78 on Corbin is pretty drastic with what it does. So no, I don't think you'll have very many lineups where they fit together.
And then you say Corbin, he's going to be heavily owned, and I'm going to bring you in, Grant, because we talked about him pre-show. Is Corbin just toast? Is he no longer? Is he now just a name brand that's faded away?
I don't think so. He was my top pitcher at the beginning of the day, but now I'm a little bit worried about how expensive or how high owned he is. Like, he's not a great K pitcher. Like, that lineup came out and they didn't have the two lefties that I was hoping were going to be in there. I mean, Peralta and Calhoun are both decent lefties, but Corbin is way better versus lefties, strikes out a whole lot more lefties, doesn't walk lefties. So I didn't really care who was in there. And now he's facing, 7 righties. So I was on Corbin, and now we haven't even mentioned the clear top play on the entire slate.
Is this your Shamanaya take you're about to have?
Yeah.
Okay, Shamanaya, go for it.
Yeah, look at Corbin's numbers since the beginning of last season compared to Minaya. Minaya's are better. He's going up against Detroit. Obviously, Detroit is probably on a similar playing field as Arizona. Corbin obviously came off the COVID-19 list. He might not be fully stretched out. He only pitched 80 pitches in the first outing. Urias, way better matchup. But he's also probably not going to go over 80. Minaya's thrown 97 and 101 pitches. He doesn't walk a ton of guys. There's not a ton of walks in that lineup outside of Grossman and Ramos. Like, they've struck out a 30% K rate so far this season versus left-hand pitching. Grant only 60 plate appearance sample size, but Manaya's not a bad pitcher. He's had a rough go of it so far this year, but he's faced Houston twice. So if we discount this season's numbers, he's a lot better last season, and he's been a lot better over the past 2 seasons. He's a 22 slightly above average K guy. Like, I don't understand this at all, like why he's not standing out as one of the best plays on the entire slate, because we have so many question marks about Hill, so many question marks about Urias, and Corbin's just going to be so heavily owned. Playing over in Oakland, it's 57 degrees. It's already not a great park for hitting. Like, this is just a perfect spot for him to just mow through this lineups, maybe get 7-8 innings realistically, because this isn't that patient of a lineup for the most part. Like, this is just a perfect spot for him. I absolutely love him on this slate. I'm going to lock him in.
All right, a couple things. Dave, I want to get your official take as far as, I'm looking at data, and like Grant was talking about since 2019, like a guy like Minaya, the sample is so small, even if you stretch it back 3 years. Last year, like, he's been injured. We're only looking at 90 innings or so the last 3 years. Last year, of course, is only 2 months. I don't really know what data to look at because the players are always changing, and I stretch it back to 2019 as well too. But last year, like, who knows? It was
even back to 2019 is irrelevant for Minaya. Like, he hasn't thrown since 2018.
Yeah. So speak on that in general, and like then your official takes as far as Minaya, and then I want to get your thought as far as Corbin too, because he's got to be somebody you have to acknowledge his existence. We don't really know, like, if he's back, if he's not back, or if he's faded away, and maybe we should try to guess it, and that's what we're going to do in some tournaments, I suppose. But your takes here.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard enough on Corbin because of the sample size of 2020, and then throw in the COVID thing. He missed a bunch of time in spring, has made 1 start and looked off. We do not know. I'm totally with Grant that there's no reason Minaya isn't one of, I could call those 4 the same guy: Corbin, Hill, Urias, Minaya. I think they're all right there together in that whole bucket of, I'm not trying to win it at pitcher. I don't think any of them are likely to give you the -12. I do think, Minaya is going to be plenty high owned too. Like, we've got him pegged at, 27%. I wouldn't be surprised if it was 30. Like, this is not like some sneaky low owned guy, but he will be much less than Corbin. And yeah, I'm totally on board with using Minaya and Corbin together. Go ahead and go a little cheaper. Again, back to that whole, even bringing in Hill and Urias, you're not looking for 30 points out of your pitchers. So I'm totally fine going double, sort of mid-tier, cheap-ish. But I'm not, like, we just don't know at all who is what right now. We truly don't. And then even matchup-wise, like, we don't know what to make of Detroit yet. Like, they look like a different team all of a sudden, but they still, like Grant said, they still don't have patience. Like, they will allow him to get some innings as long as he's got his control. I wouldn't argue at all with someone wanting to play Minaya ahead of Corbin.
Mazzara went in the DL for the record today, for what it's worth. I have a streak of getting players getting the hook after like 1 at bat. I had Yeah, when I late swapped, when I saw Hendricks was scratched, I'm like, that was the slate where there's like no bad pitchers. I'm like, oh, I got to get some Brewers now. And then Lorenzo came, running
Was
the
that
first
the
base.
game that Yelich didn't play, or is the game he came out after one at bat?
That was the one he didn't play,
Okay.
but Lorenzo Can got out in the first. He running the first base. He just like pulled a hammy or something like that, and Hendricks got the hook, and there was no pitchers to pick on. You know what, Dave? I don't know what I'm doing. This is DFS. This is Daily Fantasy Sports. All we care about is today and today only. Who cares about the game 3 days ago?
Yeah, nobody.
By the way, on FanDuel, we talk about Manaea. I think he's 6'7" over there. You can get all the bats in the world. I don't know how much you need that salary, but you can get all the bats in the world because FanDuel is very easy. And 7-7 for Hill. On FanDuel specific, Dave, do you spend it all the way up on Arias and pick on that terrible Colorado lineup, cash game perspective, or do you think you're fine taking Hill at 7-7? Is he going to be good enough?
Yeah, I think you just play Hill at 77 and some Manaea at 67 if you need salary. Like, you'll still have lineups where you just absolutely don't need the salary at all. And then, like, I would play Urias on the lineup where it just doesn't matter. You're just playing a pick 'em, basically. But salary-wise, I think Hill and Manaea are the guys who are clearly too cheap there.
Okay, Arias, Hill, Corbin, Manaea. Dave, who else is worth talking about? Lyles is throwing baseballs against a cold Tampa Bay team. We touched on Kelly already. Gomber, I know the Dodgers have some lefties, but I'm not picking on the Dodgers. We haven't seen their lineup just yet. There's still too much power from the left side and the right side. Tanner Roark might be done. Like, he might be donezo. Are we certain he's even pitching tonight? Because I haven't seen him.
Still not
officially.
yet, but even if he doesn't, he'll be in the game. But like, he's only a 4-inning pitcher anyway. So basically, the way I see it, Gomber and Roark are the only two pitchers that I just don't think you can make a case for. Junis and Kelly and Lyles, like, I get it why you might, like, if you have some reason to think those top four guys are all going to put up a negative, then I think it's fine. Like, Junis and Kelly both throw strikes. So anything can happen when you throw strikes. I think that's kind of what Grant was getting at. Like, Washington's going to hit the ball, but it still has to go somewhere good. And you can always get lucky on BABIP. And really, Junis is the same thing, even though that's a little tougher matchup. Junis also is really not a bad pitcher at all. But the difference in salary, like, they're basically the same price as Manaea, only a couple bucks cheaper than Corbin. So I don't see it, but sure, either of them could get the 15-point game.
Toronto does have to play in a real ballpark tonight, though, for what it's worth. Do you have any takes initially on that the ballpark there in Dunedin, Dave?
Not really. I don't think it's that bad.
Yeah. I mean, there's like a playground, like an elementary school in the outfield, I think, but sure. And that's an element, I suppose. Grant, touch on these guys. I know you mentioned Kelly. Is there any reason to scrounge the barrel as far as, Junis can certainly have BABIP go in his favor, and nobody's rostering him really. I don't know how much you need that salary necessarily. Screwball, big time prospect, but I don't know how much I want to pick on all those righties there for Oakland. And he's been wild, but there is some upside, I suppose. Are we scraping the barrel here, or just you're stopping at Manaea and you're good?
I mean, like, Screwball, he can strike guys out. It's in Oakland. Like, obviously, it's a tough park for hitters. It's 57 degrees there. Like, my problem is I thought he was going to be low, and we have him projected for 20%. So it's not worth it anymore. Like, there is a lot of downside. I'm actually planning on taking a few of the righties. Like, he's been good versus lefties, hasn't been great versus righties throughout his short career. So we don't know how much of it's going to affect. But if we look at his pitch mix, like, he's just basically a fastball slider guy going up against lefties. So he can get those strikeouts, but he also get hit hard. Like, we only have a 32 plate appearance sample size against lefties on him, but it's almost certainly a higher hard hit rate for lefties, and righties have been getting a lot of fly balls hitting into the air. The main thing was, like, it's that ballpark, like, you can get a lot of pop outs with those really big bullpens out in the field of play. So I was thinking about him, but I'm kind of off of him now just because of his ownership. But yeah, it's pretty much for me. Like, I'm probably just going to full on fade Rich Hill and Urias, hoping that two of Corbin, Kelly, and Manaea. I might just go pretty much all in on Manaea and then mix and match other guys is kind of my plan at the moment, just because I feel like Manaea is probably just about the safest outside Urias and still has some upside. But yeah, like, I'm not playing Junis. Yes, he throws strikes and Yes, there are some strikeouts in the lineup, but he's not a particularly high strikeout guy. And then Toronto lineup, out of all the lineups on the slate, is still one of the tougher ones. So yeah, with pitching, like you can play Hill, you can play Urias, but I'm probably gonna avoid them and just pay for higher priced bats is my plan.
Yeah, safe is kind of a relative term as far as a slate, but it's more about survival. Like Dave said, you just don't want your pitchers to get blown up, and there's not a massive opportunity cost. Like I don't think any pitcher puts up a monster number, but you just want to be respectable and make the difference as far as your bats, which we'll talk about in a second. I just put up Weather Edge, Kevin Ross Weather Edge, see if there's anything interesting on there. 69 game sample, 32% negative as far as homers for the Dodgers. I guess it's noteworthy, I suppose.
Pretty much
Nothing
all
really-
negative hitting weather, isn't it?
Yeah, there's just not much. I mean, Oakland's got a monster sample, 237 games, negative 4.6%. And that's just basically, similar games as far as just weather, how it played out as far as runs and homers. You guys can have access to this tool amongst all the other tools here at Rotogrinders. How do you do that? You go ahead and get yourself $10 off your first month at RG Premium. You can get a la carte, just baseball, just basketball. You can get all the whole deal, $10 either way. As far as baseball, this one pays for itself. Just get yourself Dave Potts. Jesus Good, $1 Million Musings. That's a phenomenal read, required reading. In addition to that, you get yourself the Lineup HQ, player projections, the premium Discord channel, Plate IQ, the Grind Down article, consensus value rankings, which all three of us, amongst others, partake in, expert survey, which I think all three of us partake in, as well as others, Slate IQ, stack leverage, team smash percentage, crunch time, which does follow us, basketball and baseball, I believe. Mr. Tuttle is on it. Kevin Ross Weather, he'll give you the most up-to-date update as far as weather. I don't think there's anything too egregious that's lurking out there. We'll see. We'll stay tuned on that. But yeah, there's a link that'll be in chat for you guys. Have at it. $10 off your first month. Again, just baseball or all the sports, with the exception of NASCAR. You can take either route. I'm yapping because I don't want to talk about the offense. It's weird, Dave, because if you want to give a summary as far as the arms, I think we basically kind of told people where we're at as far as the arms tonight. But there's none of these arms that are great. But also the bats aren't amazing. There's nothing I have to have. Like there's no team jumping off the page. There's some that are fine. I'm okay with it. But it's one of those weird slates, at least for me. There's no arms I want to play. There's no bats I have to play. And that's sort of where I'm at. What say you?
Yeah, it's pretty evenly balanced all the way around. I mean, just wrapping up the pitching. I mean, there's really not even that much to consider. Like Hill and Urias are kind of obvious. If you have money, sure, just play them. Corbin will be popular and probably fine, but there's question marks on him. Manaea is just as fine as Corbin and a little cheaper. And then if you want to go cheap, like Scooball, risk reward, or if you want to try Kelly with Grant against all the Nationals bats I'm playing, I get that as well.
Anything to add there, Grant?
I'm just digging into Kelly more and more, and I'm entirely sold on him today.
Speaking of Kelly, Carson Kelly is batting second tonight. And I have actually, that's FanDuel. I pulled up, like I saw 2.2K. That's the FanDuel price, which you can play a catcher on FanDuel. You can. It's allowed. I prefer it to be a guy like Will Smith, but he is 2.2K over there in FanDuel, and there is a catcher batting second. They are requiring you to roster a catcher tonight on DraftKings, Grant. Generally speaking, we try to find a cheapie and sort of move on, depending on the slate, yada, yada. Will Smith, I think he's a legit good hitter, not just a good hitting catcher. He's just a good hitter. I don't see an LA lineup just yet, but I presume he'll be hitting the top 5 or so. What are you doing as far as the catcher spot?
I mean, I'm basically just rounding out my stack. There's not really, outside of Smith, there's not really a great catcher on the slate that I absolutely want to play. So I'm just rounding the stack. If you want to pay down over on FanDuel and play Kelly, yeah, that's entirely fine. Corbin is worse versus righties than he is versus lefties. But realistically, I mean, it's catcher. I can pretty much say the same thing almost every single day. Just round out your stack. That's what I'm doing.
I mean, considering it's just a 5-gamer, we actually have some options here, Dave. We talked about Kelly, who's just super cheap. On DK, 4.5K, that's not a very appealing price. But, I mean, Wilson Ramos, dare I say, lefty masher. Wilson Ramos batting, he's just mashing everybody these days. 6 or 7 home runs to start the season. Sal Perez, plenty of pop in that bat as well, too. Are we spending up as far as catcher? And I'm curious, everybody says that. And I don't know if it's cheap, if it's lazy, if it's just correct. Well, just play the catcher in your stack, and that's that. Is that what you're supposed to do? Can I do something different if I want to?
The majority of slates, I think that's correct, but not always, not just as a default. I think it's dangerous to just say that's what I'm doing, period. Like tonight, if you're paying down at pitcher, I mean, I think you want to go out of your way to get some Perez and Smith. Like, if you have money to spend it on someone who's actually good at a position where everyone else is not. So I do like Perez a fair amount, but otherwise, other than him, yeah, it's pretty much the guy in my stack.
I was going to ask you, and then I caught myself about Ramos being potential leverage against the Sean Manaea owners. And yeah, do you want to give like a 30-second rant on leverage? Do you have that in you?
I so much don't even want to. So many people use that word so incorrectly that I can't even stand the use of the word anymore. Like, I'll say a couple of things. Someone who is low owned is not necessarily leverage. He's just low owned. He can still be terrible and no leverage at all. And you don't have to play. If a pitcher is popular, playing a team against him is not the only thing you can do to get leverage. And it's not even necessarily leverage. Sometimes it's just a terrible play. Like, leverage doesn't mean what a lot of people think it means. I get where it can mean something, and that's great. And you guys have fun with it. I hate that word, and I hope it goes away forever.
What words would you rather hear?
Pick a word. Top Shots. He doesn't like that word either, I don't think. We touched on that pre-show a little bit. Hey, first base. Grant, start us off at first. It's not great. It's not great. Who's jumping out for you?
I mean, Josh Bell going up against the top pitcher on the entire slate. I mean, Josh Bell, like 3.6K over on DraftKings, very clearly the top option. Probably we were going with in cash. Outside of him, like it's you're kind of just taking tournament plays. Like Vlad obviously stands out as a decent play. He's high priced. All the Dodgers stand out as a good play. So even if Muncie's in the lineup, even lefty, I don't care. Like Santana going up against Roark is a little bit too cheap. Tellez, if he makes the lineup, he's a little cheap. Like first base isn't great. I mean, if you really want to, like Matt Olson is probably the tournament play going up against Skubal. Like obviously throughout the course of his career, he hasn't given up a lot of hard contact or a lot of fly balls to lefties, but he pretty much just hammers in his slider and fastball. So those are two pitches that historically get hit pretty hard when they actually make contact. And Matt Olson is just an absolute beast. So, I mean, I don't think he's given up an extra base hit in the last who knows how long against lefties, but he hasn't faced a ton. So Matt Olson's probably the tournament play for me, but Josh Bell grades out as the best, or you can pay up for Muncie and Guerrero.
Hey, remember first base used to be like that's like all the great hitters are? What happened to first base?
It's been tapering off for several seasons and just kind of continues. And like
Third base
and shortstop have taken over for it.
All right, Dave. What do you have as far as first? You anything to add on as far as Grant?
A lot of the same names. I'll tack on to what Grant said. Like even with Olson, I mean he's going to definitely get a couple at bats against the bullpen. Like Skubal is not going 8 innings here.
No.
So not only can Olson get a hit off him, but you would think they'll probably go to righties in the bullpen because everyone else is a righty on that team. So yeah, I like Olson as well. Yeah, Josh Bell is my favorite play salary wise. On DraftKings, if you need cheap, he mentioned Tellez, assuming he's in the lineup. Like he's a very boomer bust guy, but 2,900 is a very useful salary on this slate to get kind of anything else you want. And on FanDuel,
2-1.
Tellez is 2-1. Everything's cheap there though. Like salary hardly matters. Like Carlos Santana is 27, Muncie is 3,200. Like just play anything on FanDuel.
How much you want to leave on the table on FanDuel tonight, give or take? 2K, 2.5?
Probably 2 to 3 is fine. Yeah.
Yeah. And people are hesitant to do that. I mean, well, this guy's a better hitter than that guy, isn't he? But baseball things happen sometimes. Dave, give us the keystone position, second base. What are we looking at?
So second base is also just not great. Most of these positions aren't great. To me, I'm still playing Brandon Lau. Who knows if that home run last night kind of gets him going. But even if not, like on FanDuel, he's ridiculously cheap. I love him. But even on DraftKings, like Whit Merrifield is 5,700. That seems kind of goofy. I mean, I love that kid. But I mean, Semien is probably great. But I don't love him outside of a stack as much as I would just kind of play Lau for a home run. The cheap stuff at second doesn't thrill me because it's not really that cheap. I don't think there's a single guy under 3K on DraftKings. So you're paying, 3,500 for like Jed Lowry or Nick Solak or something, and they're just not that good. So I would try to get up to, maybe like a Chris Taylor if he's in the lineup if you can't get up to that low and or above category.
Do you not find Solak to be a good leverage play?
No.
See, if I'd been told he was a leverage play, that would be wonderful.
Brandon Lau just one barrel this year so far. I was looking at his advanced stuff. And again, it's still early. I'm not ready to freak out. And you're right. The FanDuel price still is pretty goofy. The ballpark's not great, but when he gets a hold of it, who cares? I mean, we're talking about 26 batted balls. So whatever, one barrel. It's to steal your line, Cheese. Whoop-de-doo, right? Just one barrel so far.
Exactly.
Whoop-de-doo. That's a much more fun word to say than leverage.
It is. Try it. Try it for yourself. You'll like it.
Grant, you got anything to add here as far? I want to get to the people's questions. Say hello once again to the chat, like, subscribe, turn on notifications. We have two of the finest GPP players, baseball players, in all of the land. You can ask them questions. Hey, if you know what I always say, like tournaments, you want to ask questions about tournaments or about cash, and you can personalize the question. If you say, I want to talk to Cheese about this, by all means, say this is for Cheese. This is if you want to ask Grant, by all means, ask Grant, and we'll be able to knock out those questions last 15 minutes or so.
I like how that was a secondary thought for you.
Well,
at least he
Grant?
didn't say you can ask Dean, though. He didn't even.
I
get
didn't.
To that
I mean,
one.
that's implied. I suppose you can ask me a question in theory, but I'm here most every day, so the people, they don't get to Cheese very often. Generally speaking, you're on the premium side of things. Grant, you make your cameos as well too, but yeah. Ask questions regarding the slates. I want to get to some stacks and like who's going to bang out some homers as well too. That's why I want to get moving a little bit. Grant, hot corner, third base. Do it to us.
Turner, Chapman, Biggio, probably the top guys. Everyone else is just kind of meh. I think Hunter Dozier is pretty in play for tournaments. Obviously, if Rourke is playing, he can hit one out of the park. Outside of that, like nothing's really great.
Nothing is really great, right? It's just. Chapman on FanDuel, is he still like 3-2 over there? I think he is, right? That
he
seems
is.
like
3-2. Yeah.
How do you not play him outside of baseball goofy, and that's that?
And all the other third basemen, other than him and Turner, you can play at a different position. So you could play like 4 third basemen on FanDuel.
Do you like the new position versatility over there in FanDuel? Are you still adjusting to it?
I am, but I do like it. I mean, it opens up so many different ways to build. So yeah, so far I'm a fan.
It was so weird. I was making a lineup the other day and it refused. It was rejecting it. I'm like, why is it rejecting it? And like, it's got like Mookie Betts at shortstop. I'm like, why are they allowing me to put players like this here? I'm looking, I'm like, what is going on? But some kind of
you have a different positional eligibility structure than I have. I guess.
It was so weird. I'm staring at it. I'm like, I don't have more than 5 Dodgers. What's going on? Dave, you have anything to add here as far as third base? Craig Biggio, Toronto, sure. What else? We should talk about stacks. That's probably a more fun conversation. But anybody standing out for you as far as third base, maybe from a cash game perspective?
No, I mean it's either Chapman or Biggio, and that's really all there is to it. I think in cash, like Justin Turner is way too expensive on DraftKings for a cash game or even a one-off in a tournament. So it's so straightforward. I think Chapman will be the popular play with some traffic on Biggio, but again, these other guys, it's kind of like second base. DraftKings wise, most of the other plays are between like 35 and 4,500. It's not like they're cheap and they're not great. Like there's nothing wrong with like Yandy Diaz or Starlin Castro or Candelario. I mean, sure, but you're not really saving anything significant over Chapman and Biggio.
Yandy Diaz looks like a guy that should hit so many more home runs. And so I got to look at that guy. I'm like, how does he not hit like 19 home runs a game?
Man, he loves ground balls like nobody's business.
Wow. Who loves the chicks? Do not like ground balls. Nobody likes ground balls. Knock out shortstop for us, Dave.
All right. So with Trevor Story is out of the lineup in case you missed that, which I mean, he would have been an interesting tournament play because Seager's lefty. Trey Turner is wildly expensive. I think Bichette will be kind of the obvious play. We've got we're showing Turner and Seager higher owned, but I think when you start building salary wise, I think Bichette will come in as the more popular option. I do like paying up just because those guys are good. I always love Corey Seager, even lefty. Gomber's just going to walk 6 batters and then come out of the game. So I do like Seager. Yeah. But again, the cheap stuff is not good. Like Nicky Lopez and Elvis Andrus are the only cheap things. You could do Nick Ahmed. He's actually not a terrible hitter, and he's in the middle of the lineup for 31. I think if you have to go cheap at shortstop, I'd probably go his way. But Bichette is probably my favorite salary-wise.
If Gomber scuffles, by the way, I believe Arias does have a extreme pitchers umpire for what it's worth. But Gomber, like you said, historically has been pretty wild. That Colorado pen, Dave, just one lefty lurking over there. That is noteworthy.
It's good for, like, you definitely want to get some Seager and Muncy in your Dodger stacks.
Who is forever 3.2K on FanDuel. Muncy. He's just that's it. Hit the lock button for the rest of the year. He's 3.2K. If you have any thoughts on that, Grant, by all means, chime in if you have anything to add on as far as shortstop. Otherwise, open up the outfield.
Yeah, the outfield, I mean, if you're going cheap, like Garcia is hitting fourth, 2K, leverage play. Most of the top guys are priced up. Like Meadows going up against Lyle's terrible against lefties, 4.7K, too cheap there. But Betts, Soto, like clear top options on the slate. Schwarber has a platoon advantage. He is 4.5K. Gallo, lefty, not really liking, but we don't know how late Hill's going to go into the game. Lau or Low, lefty against Lyles can crush. But yeah, like most of the top options, if you want to go in tournaments, like Soler is 3.4K, can easily hit a bomb off of Roark. Pollock, don't know if he's going to get pinch hit for, but he's 3.4K, a little bit too cheap in that Dodgers lineup. Don't know if he's in there for certain, but we'll get that lineup soon enough, and I assume he's in there. Piscotty's an interesting one, probably batting later on in the lineup, 2.4K, super cheap. But yeah, that's basically outfield. Like Soto and Betts are guys you want in your lineup because they're just beast. And then Meadows and Schwarber and Gallo are all probably a little bit underpriced. Same thing with Lau.
Dave, can you answer Soto versus Betts? Like, it's a stupid question, right? Like, they're both really good. How do you decide?
Yeah, I prefer Soto tonight. And the reason is not just random. It's that Mookie Betts is just much more likely to get walked. And Soto's going to see strikes. Like Kelly throws strikes, Gomber does not. So I'd rather play the guy that might get a pitch to hit instead of the guy that might get walked 4 times.
The Dodgers were also double swap, by the way. I know you talk about not getting pinch hit for. They will do that. Last night I saw, I think Lux drew the short straw. And a lot of that, like Dave, is dependent upon, who made the last out and when you're making the swap and that kind of thing. So that's sort of random. They're obviously not going to double swap out Betts. Like, that's not going to happen, but there's a certain
everyone
level
else. Yeah. Other than Betts and Seager, like everyone's at risk.
Yeah. And then there's really no way of predicting like when that's going to happen because it's a lot of times it's dependent upon who made the last out and whatever. All thanks to the fact we don't have a DH, which we don't have time for my rant. I'm sure.
Gosh, darn it.
But you know what, Dave? They're going to move the mound back a foot.
I mean, they got to try something. That's yeah. Some of these guys won't be able to get it there for sure. So.
Excited about that. So fire off some outfielders for us, Dave. Are we still firing with Meadows? Austin Meadows batting lead off there versus Jordan Lyles. Lowe is also available in the outfield as well too. I think both places, depending on where you're shopping. FanDuel and DK, I think he's both second base and outfield eligible. Did you say Gallo wasn't in the lineup? Because I'm seeing him in the lineup.
He is. We just said Trevor Story.
Okay.
Gallo's playing.
I'm sorry. And where's our Toronto lineup? Why are we not getting Blue Jay lineups? What's going? Are we waiting on somebody? Is there somebody that might have had a hiccup or a questionable?
Anytime it's like this, you assume somebody's got COVID, and I mean it's turned out that way every time this year. Like they're probably waiting on a test result, honestly.
Yeah, we did get Oakland's lineup for what it's worth. Canna, Lowry, Loreno, who just keeps stealing bases. He's like 7 or 8 or something like that, which are nice. Chapman, Olsen, Murphy, Piscotty, Elvis, and Kemp. So waiting on the Dodgers, waiting on the Blue Jays. Dave, give us some outfielders you like.
Yeah, so the thing about outfield, I love the high end. I mean, I love Soto, I love Meadows, I love Betts, of course, who wouldn't? But on DraftKings, the guys who are like 3.5-ish are way better than the guys who are 3.5-ish at every other position. Mm-hmm. Like we're talking like Soler and Pollock and Benintendi and Gurriel, and like these are decent hitters, whereas at the other positions you're getting total nonsense. So I don't mind going with at least a couple of cheap outfielders, or even go down to 2,400 with Piscotty in a cash game just to fill it out. I think you can get maybe one expensive outfielder, which for me it's Soto first, Betts second, and then Meadows third. But I really do like that cheaper tier. And even like at the 4K range, like Mark Canna and Laureano are great. Grichuk, if he's in the middle of the lineup, all those guys at 4K are better than the 4K plays at other positions.
Gurriel is a 3.2 on DK. I think he's still like 2.2 or 2.3 on FanDuel.
Yeah, I think he's like 2.3 on FanDuel. It's silly. You can play whoever you want.
Yeah. Grant, who's going to bang out some homers tonight? Be as bold as you want to be. Walk that plank. I mean, who is the Merrill Kelly of hitting homers tonight is basically what I'm asking you. Give me 3 dudes at 3 different price levels. Pick all the dongs you want.
I don't want to go higher price level. I'm going to go Matt Olson as high as I'll go. Soler and Garcia.
All right, Dave, see him and raise them.
Yeah, semi high end. I'll go with Meadows. Mid tier, I totally agree with the Soler call, but to be different, Mark Canna. And cheap-ish is so few players here.
Josh Bell.
If he counts as cheap, definitely. Yeah, Josh Bell is going to hit a home run or two.
Can I play Garcia 2K on DK batting cleanup there for Texas in my cash game so it makes everything worse?
Yeah.
I think you can,
Like if
right?
you can get up to Piscotty, I'd play Piscotty, but yes, I think you can.
Piscotty 2-4 in the 7-hole at home. Favorite stacks, Grant? Who we stacking up tonight?
Honestly, like you can stack up anything. I'm probably avoiding the Dodgers just because I think they're going to be way too high owned. Like it's not particularly great weather there. Like they don't have a high team total. I think their ownership kind of outweighs it. If you want to sneak your stack in tournament, honestly, it's Texas. It's about that time of year where Rich Hill gets a blister in the second inning. So
that is true.
It's a good bullpen, but yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say Grant's a good bullpen, but like everyone's kind of ownership's pretty spread out. Like if you for tournaments, Diamondbacks and Rangers. But my top stacks, like if we're not including ownership, are the Rays, the Nationals, and the Dodgers. But I'm just fading the Dodgers because of ownership.
How about yourself, Dave? Actually, you know what? If you could throw out a couple of stacks you like, but can you entertain this question for me? Because we've talked about it a couple of times already. And the concept of you have to play 5 guys in a stack, or you have to play 4-4 in a stack. What quantifies a stack, and what makes you say today is the day I'm playing 5, I'm playing 4, I'm going to do 3-3-2? How does all that stuff sort of factor in?
I mean, the biggest the biggest factor usually ends up being salary for me. It's like you get to a point, you get the guys you need to have. And then if you're playing subpar players, you want to add them to your stack and have the correlation. Like you're not going to play, Kyle Isbell for 2,500 instead of Brett Phillips if you have a Rays stack. But if you have the option, when the salary's looser and you're like, well, I can play, Michael Taylor in my KC stack, or I can play Mookie Betts, I'm more likely to play Mookie Betts. And then it depends on the slate as far as where's the gap between all the teams, where's the ownership between all the teams. More often than not, you end up on a stack because you're just out of options to make a good lineup. Like if you're going to have 3 bad players in your lineup anyway, bad players meaning guys you don't want, that you just have to fit them for salary. At that point, you just want to be correlating them and ending up with a stack.
So your thought process on it is it's fluid. It's dependent upon the slate, dependent on the day, but you're open to 5 and you're also open to 3-3-2, and it's dependent on all the variables you talked about.
Yes. Yeah.
How about tonight?
I think I'm mostly stacking tonight. Like it is, DraftKings has tightened the pricing from where it was last week. So you really can't just play a bunch of great hitters. And if you try to do like a 3-2-2 kind of thing with all the top bats, you're pretty much just out of money, or else you're playing like Junis and Skubal. So I do think this is going to be an end-up stacking night.
All right, let's turn this over to the chat. We have compiled some questions. We run them out. Feel free to fire up some more. Devin will be grabbing them. Again, do subscribe, turn on notifications, get yourself RG Premium. $10 off the first month. Go ahead and drop that link in chat for the people, Devin. I have compiled some questions. Dave, you're going to handle the cash game perspective, unless otherwise noted, unless specified for. Grant, you're going to handle the tournament questions. I'm going to give this one to you, Dave. It's just it's neither. It's from Tony. Who on Texas hits lefties well? We'll use the trusty Plate IQ tool, right, Dave?
Exactly. If you haven't used Plate IQ, like we've got the stats all sorted exactly correctly. And the answer using that is really no one, other than Joey Gallo still hits for power. He just strikes out a crazy ton. But I mean, the reason I like Rich Hill is simply no one hits good against lefties. Kind of, sort of Nick Solak. And then like Kiner Falefa doesn't strike out a lot. But the reason Rich Hill is a good play is because nobody on Texas hits lefties well.
All right, Grant, this is from Stan. Any interest in the Arizona stack?
A little bit as a leverage play. No, like I mean, it's Corbin. Like we don't know exactly how he's going to end up being this year. It's just with how high owned he is. I think that there's definitely definitely some bats you can take in that, like Escobar, Kelly, Cabrera, Ahmed are all kind of priced right, and he can get into some trouble. I mean, it's not particularly great hitting weather, but it's going to go low owned.
Has Dave ever been compared to Woody Harrelson? Dave?
Actually, I get that one a lot. I've been like, I hear a lot of things. You love this guy, but Woody Harrelson is probably one of the top ones I hear the most.
Who do you think is the top one for me?
Like Seth Rogen on a bad day.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
I was going to say Seth Rogen on a fairly good day.
Can we just go with skinny Seth Rogen, like not 40-year-old virgin Seth Rogen?
What best Woody Harrelson movie?
White Man Can't Jump.
Yeah, that's the obvious answer.
I have to do a Google search on it, but I think
There's a lot. Yeah.
that's a pretty good answer. He's in a lot. He's in a lot of things. All right, this is tournaments. This is for you, Grant. I'm thinking of a Toronto KC. Oh no, game stack. That's if you really want to tell Cheese, you talk about a game stack. He hates that so much. I can see it in his face. Grant, do you like the game stack as far as Toronto KC? And factoring in ownership, does that consider things? But Toronto KC game stack, are you in or out?
Yeah, no, I'm in for it. Game stacks are kind of dumb. Except for the fact that occasionally when one team goes absolutely off, then they're not really, neither side's really going to throw their best bats in there or best arms in there. And so like if one team goes off for 10 plus runs and they're up 10-2, like the opposing team's probably going to get some easier bullpen arms on the other side. But in any case, yeah, I don't mind either of those stacks.
Friend of the show, Kirk Dees asked for Cheese. Is Crone a good leverage play? Oh no, we've hit the over on this.
Sadly, the answer is yes, but stop it.
You guys are overlooking the best second base play on the slate. Jed Lowry, super hot, and he's a great point per dollar play. We're hitting all of them, Grant. Point per dollar play, Jed Lowry.
Point per dollar is just such a ridiculous metric half the time.
Yeah.
Jed Lowry's fine. Like, honestly, the Oakland stack isn't terrible now that Scooball's going to grab some ownership. He can give up a lot of hard contact, and he gives up a lot of fly balls. The problem is that the ballpark's cold, and it's not a particularly great ballpark, but yes, they can hit 3 or 4 balls at the ballpark, and Lowry could be one of those guys.
It is a pretty sweet lineup spot, getting between Canna, Laureano, and Chapman.
Yeah, it is kind of surprising they're giving him such a nice little spot there. Does Cheese look at things like spin rate for starting pitchers behind the scenes, or just results slate based? Do you care about spin rate?
In the off season, yes, but once the season starts, like I don't have time to look into everything. So no, like on a daily basis, I do not have time to look at spin rate. Sometimes I step back and look at it, but not every day.
Anthony K starting for Toronto. Is that an opener? I assume that's an opener, right, Cheese?
Yeah, I mean, we're still going to see Tanner Rourke. Like Toronto's pretty much out of pitchers, and I think of this as a bullpen game. K is probably a 2 or 3 inning guy, and I would still expect we see Tanner Rourke pitching another 2 or 3 innings.
From Eric Grant, give me a pivot at shortstop.
At shortstop, pivot from who? I mean,
I don't know. I assume the chalk. It's a good play.
Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing probably has something to. So try and get off either Turner or Seager, or Bichette. Like if you're trying to get pivot, it's Nick Abed going up against Corbin.
Cheese, LeCastro, is he a decent salary saver on DK? Well, for tournaments, they're asking. He can steal bases. He's got some speed. LeCastro? Dave?
Yes, like he's not a bad hitter, and he's hitting leadoff. Theoretically, he's usually a pinch hit risk, but they're kind of running out of hitters. Like he might still come out for like Cole Calhoun will come in the game at some point. It could be him who comes out, but it might not because it might just be Matheson and Andy Young and these guys. So sure, he's playable.
By the way, Woody Harrelson's best movie is Zombieland.
Zombieland's good. I don't know if it's better, but it's good. I feel like there's something we're missing as well too, which I'll
No Country for Old Men.
Oh yeah, that's not really a Woody Harrelson movie, but it's a phenomenal movie. But is that a Woody Harrelson movie? He's in it. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Most movies with him aren't actually Woody Harrelson movies. Like he's usually best as like the kind of second or third guy.
Yeah. Do you think everybody that's watching us knows who Woody Harrelson is? Is he for the kids? Woody Harrelson? I don't know.
I bet there's people who don't know who he is. He's an older gentleman.
Yeah.
Hunger Games wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, he wasn't. That's how people know. Like 20-year-olds know him from the guy from Hunger Games. Is Badu, who's absolutely crushing the worlds and taking souls? He's been awesome. Is he a good cash game play tonight, Cheese?
No, I would not play a lefty against Minaya in cash games.
We're not buying it, and it's not even a great matchup. Yeah.
And it's not a great ballpark.
Besides that, He's a good story, though. Fun to root for. Hey, Grant, Fandle, GVP, can I stack up Tampa? He's been super cold.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't matter if they've been cold. Like, realistically, we worry about the ballpark, but there's cold weather in all 4 other ballparks. So being in a dome in that ballpark is really not going to be a detriment. And there's enough lefties in the lineup where Lyles is absolutely terrible versus lefties. So stacking Meadows, Lau, Wendell, and then throw in like Diaz or Rosarina, like, not a bad move at all.
Do we have an official Toronto lineup? We have an opener. I don't see the lineup just yet. Maybe I'm missing it, but there's a question regarding potential.
What are the odds? Just came out. Simeon, Bouchette, Guerrero, Grichuk, Biggio, Gurriel, Tellez. Yeah, normal lineup.
Okay, so standard.
Is Jansen catching?
Yeah.
Okay.
Cheese, you like Murphy at catcher for tournaments?
Yeah, I do.
DK Cash, this is for Cheese. Is it okay to play Trevino and Garcia in the same lineup as Rich Hill?
In cash, they're so cheap. Yeah, yeah, it's okay.
Grant, KC stacks?
Fine with it. I mean, I like Soler. I like Dozier. Perez and Witt are expensive, but good. And Benintendi's too cheap.
Cash, should I go from Manaya to Corbin if I have the $600 on DK?
I don't have a strong lean on that. I would play Corbin, but it's really close. So my answer is yes, I'd play Corbin, but it's pretty much a coin flip situation.
Grant, FanDuel tournament, give me your best GPP contrarian pitcher. Oh, here comes Merrill.
Manea is supposed to not be that owned. I'm checking. He's 25%. I don't know how contrarian that is. Like, Corbin's 14% over there. I don't know how much I trust these ownerships right now, but if you're just looking to get off Rich Hill and Urias, like, I'd go Manea.
All right, Grant, if I am adamant about stacking Tampa, which stack do you prefer? Let's see, they repeated Meadows twice. They repeated Lowe twice. So they want to know a Rosarina versus Wendo.
Rosarina.
All right. Did the Rockies and Dodgers both agree to sit their best players? Have we seen the Dodgers lineup?
Betts is out.
Oh.
And Seager's out.
Well, this is important stuff. Why are we asking? Why are we talking about Woody Harrelson?
It just popped up.
Yeah.
I just got the questions. I don't know when I got it, but somebody read off that.
So Taylor's leading off, and then Lucas Raley and McKinstry are down at the bottom. So it's definitely a weakened lineup here as well.
What do we do with this, Dave? Your first thought? I know you're just digesting it like everybody else. We got to step aside in a minute or so and make way for crunch time.
My first thought is I'm more interested in stacking teams once people are disappointed by their lineup. This is still a really good team, and they're still facing a guy who walks everybody. It's just cheaper now. So I actually like the Dodgers a little more now. Not that I expect them to score more runs now, but it's easier to fit them and less people are going to play them.
That's a good point. You have a thought on it, Grant, before you step aside and get out of here?
I mean, yeah, the problem is people are going to look at Vegas and wide totals. And so it's still probably going to be sitting at around 5. Probably will drop down to 4.7 from 5. And so I still think people are going to play them. Now they're able to easily fit them in. So they're still in play. I don't know if I'm still probably going to fade because I'm guessing they're going to be the chalkiest stack because most people just look off of Vegas odds. And it's going to be the Nationals and the Dodgers. And now people are going to double stack the Nationals and Dodgers because they can easily do it with Soto and Turner.
Their bench is really, really strong. I would just say that, depending on game situations, and who knows how to predict. And if they're up 10-0, who cares? They're not going to pinch hit Betts or Seager. But if the situation calls for it, your guy might get the hook. Just be aware of that. That was Grant Neefer. You know from a lot of things, but Grant, I was mean earlier, Grant. Well, mean by my degrees, but you've been crushing scores and odds. Tell the people what that is if they're not aware, because I saw you had another winner today. Do a little humble brag. You never do that.
Yeah. I got 2 winners tonight. I think I'm like 17-3 so far this season. I don't know. I've cleared a whole lot of money. It's just sports betting picks from all the experts here at RG, and I'm crushing baseball ridiculously.
That was Dave Potts. You know him from $1 Million Musings. Again, you guys can get the RG Premium, $10 off your first month here at Rotogrinders. We'll go ahead and drop the link in chat one time for you guys before we step aside and get out of here. Before you all leave, hit the like button, subscribe, turn on notifications. We do appreciate that as well. If you are premium members, stay tuned for Crunch Time. Crunch Time will be Andy Means talking about some basketball, Mr. Tuttle talking about some baseball, Kevin Roth talking about the weather as far as so it's going down tonight. If anything is lurking, he's all over it. That said, that was Dave Potts. Cheese is good. That was Grant Neefer. That was Devin producing. I was Dean. This was baseball. We're out of here. Holler.
Hey, kids.